This episode of the Techology Show is brought to you by Wesley Seminary at Indiana Wesleyan University. Wesley Seminary offers a 75 credit hour Master of Divinity program available in both English and Spanish, a 36 credit hour Master of Arts in Ministry Leadership or in Children, Youth, and Family Ministry, and a 36 credit hour Master of Practical Theology. For more information, visit Wesley Seminary online at seminary.indwes.edu. It's Tuesday, March the 4th, 2014, and live from Rural Pickens, South Carolina, it's the Techology Show. I'm Matthew T.G.
Over here doing my calisthenics, I'm Heath Mulliken.
And I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Techology Show, weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. This is episode 238.
Yay!
Woohoo! All right, so guys, I want you to know that what I have in studio, and I'm going to keep this in studio, this is my Microsoft certified pin right there. Now, it doesn't show up really good, but this is the official Microsoft certification.
What is now, just by the simple fact that you own that makes you certified, yeah.
Yes. What? How did you get this?
Michael Bryant gave it to me, a friend of mine.
I'm going to lay the challenge down. July District Conference tie-in. Coordination Service.
I'm not wearing that
challenge.
I'm not accepting
challenge
a challenge.
Challenge. PG,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
denied.
what's the reward? I mean, you've established the risk.
What do I get if I wear it? Yeah, that's what I thought, man.
No. I'll come up with something.
I don't want free tickets like to some wrestling match because I don't care, okay?
DoubleDropKick.com. All right. Hey.
What?
Since Tony's not going to give that away, we'll give something else away. And you need to remember that for the next week, you can go to right there, thetechologyshow.com/giveaway or our personalized link, and you can win a copy of Dangerous Presence from Wesleyan Publishing House and the Techology Show, written by Jason Butler. And if you have not listened to our interview with Jason Butler last week, absolutely one of our
awesome.
We all agree one of our favorite guests.
Yeah.
I hope he's going to be at the gathering. Love to have him live. Love to meet him. We haven't met him personally, so that's a giveaway for the next week. We got, I'm just going to throw some stuff out there they don't know about. We're giving books away. Pretty much, we have an author that wrote a book. We're doing a giveaway, but one we've got right here already coming up. Devin Brown. We got a lot of C.S. Lewis fans. We're going to be interviewing him in April. We've got not one.
Yeah, he sent us two, and he autographed them.
Yes.
Whoa. Yes, he autographed them.
And I will sign them as well.
Please don't. We don't want to bring the value down.
And listen, if you didn't know this, Tony Casey, he is a C.S. Lewis.
I love C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis expert.
Not an expert. Far from it. But if we get enough guests on the show that are experts, maybe you and I can become.
Maybe they'll send you a certified C.S. Lewis pin, and then you'll be.
Would you wear that to district?
I would wear that. So real quick here, interesting. All three of us attended church that's doing the community Bible experience. This has been not just a wonderful experience within the church, within our own home.
Yeah.
We're doing this.
Yeah.
Wednesday night, we had senior adults. We did a group on this, a study. Looking forward to it this Wednesday night. And Matthew, I don't know, how would you gauge the percentage of participation at our church on that?
Ooh, I'd say we're about maybe 60%, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you kind of get a sense
I couldn't
of?
see from up front. That's why I asked you.
I'd say we're about 60% of really, really committing great, which is not bad. I mean, we're excited about that. Good stuff. But it's been fantastic. I mean, heard just great things from people about their reading experience, but also from somebody in our church talking about sharing that what they're doing at work. And they said, that's interesting. I've never heard about that in that way. I sent 2 of those Bibles Sunday night with him to give to those coworkers who had who just said, that sounds really interesting. They're not believers.
Yeah.
I had same thing. I've got a young lady, her and her husband have gotten involved with worship at our church, and she bought 3 books, one for her husband, and one for somebody she works with who is a Christian. But they were just talking about, how can we encourage each other? So during their lunch break, every day they're talking about community Bible experience, and it is.
I think Dr. Jim Dunn, correct me if I'm wrong, he said that they have been that the response to this throughout our denomination has been more than what they expected.
Yeah, I mean, over 800 churches out of I think there are 1,700 in North America. So over 800 churches, and we are continuing. The big push was for this Lent season, but we're doing a phase 2 in the fall, phase 3. So we're going to look at over a 12-month period how many people do it. And, we're definitely hoping to be over 1,000, but tens of thousands of people, and it's life-changing.
Yeah, it's really been a great experience. Well, let's talk about our guest this week. He is one of our favorite people from one of the favorite parts of the world that Matthew and I have had an opportunity to go to and just get to know people, and that is Haiti, specifically the island of La Gonave. He is project manager for construction, and he's also the project manager right there on the island. His name is Julian Cattle. He's married to his wife, Marie, has 2 lovely daughters, Becca and Ella. Julian, welcome to the show.
Hi, hello.
Okay, now, so you already know what's coming here. Before we talk about anything else, we've got to ask you about the incident with the rat up the pant leg.
Yeah. Well, we'd gone across to a really nice resort on the mainland just for a weekend for a short break, and we went with Greg and Heidi Edmonds and their family. And we were sitting down for dinner one night at this beautiful beachfront restaurant. And anyway, just sitting there eating, really nice time, bit of fellowship, we're good friends. And suddenly I feel this like scratching on the side of my calf. And I jump up, and I have to confess I was kind of screaming like a girl. I kind of start jumping around this restaurant, and there was other guests there, and the hotel owner was on the table next to us. And I kind of jump out onto the beach, and I'm hopping up and down, and this big rat drops out the bottom of my trouser leg, and it was kind of made the more amusing by the guests we had with us. But
I just love that a really nice resort is one where rats run up your leg. I'd love to know what the not nice resort is like.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we know Greg and Heidi Edmonds. We're good friends with them. Yeah. So what was Heidi's reaction to all this?
Oh, I think she was really horrified. I think she could barely finish her dinner, to be honest with you. I kind of felt worse for her than I did for myself. But I guess if she's listening to this, it must be giving her the creeps now.
Yeah. I think she just turned the show off.
Well, again, before we got lots of questions for you concerning some of your work there, but there's a picture that we wanted to show our viewers here, and this is the picture of the Land Rover that came, to the Wesleyan compound there, and you got to drive this thing, and so our viewers can see this right now. You actually got to drive this thing off the boat. What was that like?
Oh man, it was nerve-wracking. Nobody was really volunteering to do it, and I kind of got pushed forward as the probably the least useful person. But it was on this tiny little platform. There was about a foot of Land Rover hanging off the front and the back of the boat, and of course the boat's moving up and down, and the wharf's stationary. And as far as I could tell from the jeering crowd of like 200, they were pretty much saying, "Go fast and smooth." That's sort of what I could gather. And never having done it before, I kind of figured I might as well go with the majority advice, and it panned out pretty well. But as the front wheels come off the front of the boat, the boat kind of lifts up behind you, and it all feels very, very precarious.
So let me ask you this, and pardon my ignorance, but is this the Land Rover that someone had given to the compound, and it was held hostage in customs for so long?
Yeah, it was 3.5 years it's been in customs. So, yeah, finally out after 3.5 years. So
Yeah.
they're here.
In the pre-show, we were talking about this a little bit. You say that even, I mean, right now it's up in the mountains somewhere, right? Being used.
It is. We've got a medical team in at the moment, and they're doing an outreach clinic up in Pickney, which is one of the more remote areas of the island. So yeah, it arrived here yesterday lunchtime, and it's already out doing its job. So yeah.
That's great.
Well, Julian, for people that don't know, let's talk first about your journey to Haiti. How did you get there, and what are the projects you've been in charge of there on Lagadav?
Well, we kind of came here a little bit by accident in a way. It wasn't really something we were looking for, but my brother had been out to Haiti just after the earthquake in 2010, just on a 2-week trip bringing medicines out. And he'd met a guy called Justin Dowds. And anyway, the long and the short of it is this guy, Justin, was looking for a project manager for the build of the new hospital, and he'd sent an email to all the contacts, and one of those people was my brother. And we were sitting down to a family meal one Sunday with my mum and my brother and all his family, and he kind of whispers across the table, he goes, "You're going to Haiti?" And I kind of thought he meant maybe for a week or two, maybe on a mission trip. And then it transpired he meant that we were going to live here, which I thought was kind of unlikely. And it turned out this Justin guy was a lunatic Scotsman with big ideas about building a hospital and not enough adequate funding and no experience of building. And I was kind of skeptical. But after a couple of weeks of thinking about it, I said, okay, give the guy my number. And we were on the phone for about an hour. And I have to confess, after that phone call, I was pretty hooked. So 6 months that we moved out here, and we've been here for just a little over 2 years now. So
yeah, for people who don't know the Dowds, I mean, these are people who really get a vision and then make it happen, don't they?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Yeah. In a big way.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. That was. I mean, they have. Justin has huge dreams, and I have to say some of them seem unlikely, but he brings them all to fruition. And an amazing guy, an amazing family.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the projects you were in charge of, you already alluded to it, is the hospital there. And we had an opportunity to tour that before it opened, but it was getting close towards the end of being built. And the whole tour, as you were speaking, was fascinating to me. Take a moment and talk about the way you approached the building of the hospital as far as the workforce was concerned.
Well, we wanted to employ as many local people as we could. We had some doubts before we started as to what skills we were going to get. We kind of imagined we were going to be bringing in teams from the States or Canada, maybe for block laying and carpentry and things like that. But as it turned out, we managed to find all the available skills here on the island, and people with a really, really good skill level. So we've had 100% Haitian workforce throughout the build. Which has been fantastic. It's employed between, I guess, 20 and 50 people directly employed on the construction site every day for the last 2 years. So, it's supported a lot of families. I imagine before we started that we'd have a little more mechanization, for example, digging foundations and digging the basement. But we ended up by necessity doing it all by hand. So everything was hand dug with picks and shovels and wheelbarrows, and that employed 12 men for over 18 months just doing the digging. But they did a great job. Worked really hard. So
yeah, talk about how you. We had a conversation one day where you talked about you even took some people and they were contractors, but they didn't know how to really bid out anything. Talk about kind of the opportunity you had to take your own knowledge and then to teach others, how to be able to again, just contract out bids and things of that nature.
Yeah, well, that's something that's worked out really well for us. Pretty much when we arrived, everybody wanted a job. They just wanted to have a day wage and employment. But a couple of the guys came forward, and I said, well, would you be interested in taking work as a contract? And explain the idea that we'd fix a price at the beginning, and that would be the price they'd get for it. I'd supply all the materials, but they'd do all the labour and all the employment issues. So the first one we did was actually the perimeter wall for the hospital. The guys didn't really know how to bid it, so the first price was like 15,000 US, I think, was what they came up with. We ended up settling at about 2,000. We kind of went through a process of how they could understand their costs, you know, how many men are you going to have and how much you're going to pay them each day and how much is food and water. And we came to a cost position and added a bit of profit. And they really got on with it really well and, you know, picked up really quickly that if they did it quicker and with less men, then they're going to make extra money. And we started that fairly early on in the process, and those guys have run with it. And actually, most of the people employed on the building site are employed under contract now. So it means we've created some wealth generators in the community. You know, it's not really me doing the employing, but it's actually the Haitian bosses who become the employers. So
and then not just even directly in the building process, but in the materials. You also, you know, really have given a huge jump start to the town of Ensangale and the people who provided some of the materials that were used in the building too, is my understanding.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our total spend here on the island is on the hospital is about 1.2 million US dollars. Wow. So that's been spent directly here on the island. And as you say, those hardware stores and everything I say hardware store, it's not like Home Depot for you guys back at home. It's kind of a small house with a few bags of cement in, but those guys have really stepped up, and you know, I can order 1,000 bags of cement and have them here tomorrow, or whatever wood, all the ceramic tile, 20,000 square feet of ceramic tile, and they've been pretty much able to deliver to me within a couple of days of order. So yeah, they've been great.
One thing that struck me when I was there, Julian, is that this is something that also builds goodwill in the community, doesn't it? And kind of an ownership, because it is the Haitians who are actually building the hospital.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's been one of the things I found most fulfilling about the job is, you know, doing construction in the UK. Pretty much most of the people who work on a construction site don't really want to be there in general. You know, they're off hiding behind a dumpster somewhere and having a cigarette. But the guys working really appreciated the work. The community really appreciate having a new hospital. It's the only hospital on the island. Wow. So it serves a population of 120,000. So the community have been really supportive, and as you say, they've built it themselves. You know, it's not an American or a European hospital. It's a Haitian hospital run by Haitians and built by them. And there's definitely a sense of ownership and certainly a sense of pride in it as well. It's one of the island's first earthquake-resistant buildings, and really is a landmark building for the town. So.
It's hard to describe if you haven't been there to see it. That's just the fact of the matter. And I got the great fortune of my first visit to the island and to Ensangale was before the project had even started. And so getting to walk through the hospital as it was, and then getting to this past fall, travel back and see how man alive, I just can't hardly comprehend how in such a short period of time such a massive change took place. You can't get it until your feet are on the ground there and you see it. And I think, Tony, you know, because I'd come back with stories. Right. Listen to these stories about, hey, but then you got to go and see it. And it really is just, it's the scale of what's been done is tremendous.
It is. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Speaking of stories, Julian, Tony and Matthew were very impressed with the story of the massive concrete pour at the hospital. So tell our listeners what that's all about.
Well, we at one end of the hospital there's a really big basement, and then above it is all the operating theatres and operating suite for the hospital. And we had to pour a concrete slab, which is the roof of the basement or the floor of the operating suite. And it's a great big 8-inch thick concrete slab, and we had to pour it all in one continuous pour. We couldn't have any joints because it would weaken the structure from a seismic resistance point of view. And the only way we could do it, we only have hand mixers here. We don't have big ready mix lorries or concrete pumps, and so we started with a crew of 30 guys, and we planned on switching them out every 8 hours until it was finished. So we had 3 crews lined up, and anyway, we started mixing by hand at 5 o'clock in the morning, and passing the bucket of the concrete along in a bucket chain. So one man to the next, and those 30 guys worked the first 8 hours, and after that they said, "Oh no, we're still good. We'd like to carry on." So they carried on for another 8 hours, and at that point they'd done 16, and they were kind of approaching the end, and they said, "No, we'd like to finish. We've started it now, and we'd like to see it through." And they finally finished at 3 o'clock in the morning the following day. So they did 22 hours straight. The amazing thing,
Wow.
so the amazing thing really is that the slab weighs 495 tons. And because they were doing it in a bucket chain, it means that every man lifted 495 tons over that 22-hour period. So, an amazing thing to do.
It's such an impressive story.
Oh, my goodness
Here in the States, Julian, if we need something for construction, we go to our local Home Depot store or a construction store. But in Haiti, that's not the case. A lot of things are made. And for an example, talk just about the wood stain there in the hospital. To me, that was a fascinating story.
Yeah, well, we went out to try and buy some wood preservatives, some wood stain for all the timber work on the hospital, and we found pretty quickly that it's just not available here in Haiti. And traveling around the town, we found a guy who was polishing a table. Actually, he polished furniture for a living. And I had a chat with him and said, "Well, do you think you can do this on a bigger scale? Do you think you can do a building?" And he looked kind of doubtful, but he came down and had a look. And I explained to him we wanted it to be like black coffee, so that we'd have a really dark wood stain, but still be able to see the grain of the wood through it. And anyway, the long and the short of it is we agreed a price for the work, and I didn't really know how he was going to do it, but he understood what I needed, and I'd seen his work was good with the furniture. And anyway, the next day he turns up on site with 2 55-gallon drums of medical-grade alcohol. And into the alcohol he starts dissolving bits of crystal and nuts and bark, and stirs it all up, and puts his brush in and paints a bit on a bit of wood for me. And I'm like, "No, I'd like a bit more red in it than that." And more bark goes in, and he stirs it all up, and eventually he got to the colour I wanted. And yeah, he managed to stain the entire hospital. So yeah.
Yeah, we've been showing some pictures of the hospital, and so like on the one that's up on the screen right now, our viewers can see some of that.
It's the front entrance there, kind of the breezeway at the front entrance, and those wood slats that those are the ones. There they are.
Also, too, Julian, were all the doors handmade?
They were, yeah. We can't buy preformed door blanks here, and so we got a guy who could build doors for us, and that starts off as there's also no sawmills, so the wood is cut by hand from bits of tree, and when you get a plank, it still has the bark down the sides, and so yeah, he handmade all of the doors for us. Planed it all by hand, and used a chisel and a handsaw, and so we have all handmade doors, which is they're beautiful, really, really nice.
I don't know. I'm curious what people's reaction has been. My own reaction was that this is a building. I know it's very functional, but this is a building that is just beautiful on its own by anyone's standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's been difficult for some of the workers sometimes, because I've been kind of a little harsh on things being plumb and level and built properly, and to a really high standard to achieve what we've got. But very often I see them out with a camera or a smartphone taking pictures of it to take home to their family to show them what they built. So it is beautiful, and it's really one of a kind in Haiti. So the guys are really pleased with it.
Well, isn't the hospital also, again, I don't want to misspeak, but isn't it also one of a kind in that it is completely solar powered, and like very small number of hospitals that are solar powered in the world today?
Yeah, I think so. It's 100% solar power, not really because we wanted to do that from an ecological or a green perspective, but there is no power provision here on the island, so it was really the only option available to us.
Right.
The existing hospital runs off diesel generators, which cost about $65,000 a year to run.
Wow.
And putting the solar in has pretty much eliminated that. Well, it has eliminated that bill altogether. So, yeah,
That's
huge
amazing. And when you live in that area, good gracious, the way that building is, it gets sun all day. I mean, I think you said that between that and there's a whole series of batteries that have to go to hold charge and all that kind of stuff. But it'll 24 hours a day. There's constant power there off of that. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
It also powers the whole Wesleyan mission as well. It powers the guest house and all the mission housing as well. So they all have 24-hour power now, which is great.
Wow. So I don't want to put you on the spot. So you said the hospital saves $65,000 a year on fuel. What would you say would be the savings for the whole compound for the year that they can put into other resources? 100,000, 75,000?
I guess probably 80 at a guess. Yeah. A significant amount of money overall. So.
I'm curious, Julian, in terms of there's got to be upkeep to those and monitoring of the solar panels. How does that happen?
Well, the system is actually monitored remotely. It was a firm in California who supplied it for us, and it's actually fixed to a wireless router, and they can do all of the checking of the system and maintenance online. The only thing we have to do here is top up the batteries with a bit of distilled water occasionally and make sure the solar panels are clean. The cost is estimated to be about $200 a month, so $2,400 a year we have to put aside, and that would cover new batteries when they wear out in about 10 years' time, or replacement parts or whatever. So, yeah.
Now, people may not be able to tell from your accent, Julian, but Haiti is not your country of origin. And our question is, what are some benefits and challenges from raising your children in a culture that is not your culture of origin?
This is going to sound odd, but I think as a family we found it pretty easy. The community here have really been really accommodating. Really helpful in every way they could be. It's safe to walk out on the streets. We can go out at night. The kids have friends in town and they can go and visit their friends. Of course, language is a barrier, and it's taken a little while to pick up Haitian Creole properly. But I guess we all have enough to sort of get by. Of course, culturally, Haiti is very different. As I say, everyone's made a real effort with us and made us feel really welcome. So, it's been great.
How's the chicken raising business going?
Kind of expensive, actually. It's I worked out the other day that it's costing me $35 a month in feed, and I'm getting about 2 dozen eggs. Really not very economic.
Not like the solar panels there. Maybe.
No.
It sounds like construction is your gift, maybe not farming, okay?
Yep.
So, Julian, what are you currently working on? What are your responsibilities?
Well, we're just finishing off the hospital at the moment. We're doing now joinery, kind of internal cabinetry and stuff like that, plumbing and the final electrics. So we should be finished with the building completely kitted out and ready to move into in about the next 2 weeks. So, yeah.
Now, somewhere in all this, you also were project manager for 1 or 2 schools, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Compassion International wanted to rebuild schools that were damaged after the earthquake. And their representative had come down and seen the hospital and had a look through one of the wards and basically said, well, can we produce this same sort of building as a school? I think they liked the fact that we were using entirely local labour and all the materials and everything bought in country as well. And so we said, yeah, in principle it could be. And so we ended up going into a design and build contract with them on a little school up in the mountains in a place called Fontina. It has about 400 children at the school. And so we built that towards the end of last year. And we then agreed to take on a second school out in Toulouse, which is up the coast, and we finished that about 2 weeks ago. So each one took about 16 weeks to build from start to finish. But I think probably the biggest challenges were their location. The one in Fontina is about 4 miles away up the mountain. If you had a really good 4x4 like our new Land Rover, it's probably about an hour to an hour and or an hour and a quarter in a Land Rover. So that was a challenge for getting materials up there.
Yeah,
And
that's just people. I mean, people here can't fathom that. I mean, people that have never been there. I remember you telling me that story. How long now? I do understand that some guys on motorcycles could get up there a little quicker. Isn't that right?
I managed to get it down to 14 minutes on the dirt bike, but I can't honestly tell you I was driving particularly responsibly, but yeah.
That's funny.
For 14 minutes, yeah.
Julian, I don't know if you can describe it. It's pretty hard if people haven't seen it, but one of the things that was so impressive to me was how the construction of the building almost promotes cooling. Especially we were in one of those wings in one of those rooms, and we were there the hot part of the day, and it was amazing to me how that room had been designed in such a way that there was a breeze. Maybe just do your best here to kind of explain that.
Yeah, no problem. Well, we built the building with a pitched roof, and the ceiling is directly applied to the underside of that roof. So it kind of has a pitched ceiling which is higher at one end than the other. And then we have windows at the bottom, but then also windows at the very top, just underneath the roof. And so as hot air rises, it's drawn out through the windows at the top, and then that draws in cool air at the bottom. So it's almost like a natural convection or a chimney effect that keeps a constant cool breeze going through the buildings. So that's it's actually a really comfortable and nice environment to be in. Although my workers are constantly going around closing the windows because at this time of the year it's only 90 degrees at the moment, and it's
so cold, man.
And they're all really cold, so they're going around shutting the windows because they don't like the draft.
I love it.
I just want to tell you, Julian, how much I not just appreciate your work, but it's powerful to me to have had kids from my youth group who have been down in Haiti, some of my best friends who have worked there in Haiti, and to see you broadcasting to us from outside the building there.
Yeah.
And we're getting a better reception from you than we do from places in the United States. And it's just a powerful testimony to me of, I mean, literally what you're sitting there doing today would not have even been possible 4 or 5 years ago after the devastation of the earthquake. And so just kudos to you and your heart, and just for making the dreams of a lot of people come true down there.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been a great pleasure doing it.
Well, Julian, know that you and your family will be coming to the States here in a few weeks, and I just want to say blessings on you guys, and hope that while you're here in South Carolina that we might be able to get together and see one another in person again.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
All right, well, give our love to Marie and the girls.
It's been fantastic to talk to you, Julian.
Great. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Well,
You saw the cursor again there, didn't you? Yeah. It's going everywhere. Good gracious there, Matthew.
I still thought last week was the best, with the people who are not in studio couldn't see it. The cursor looked like a comet going across the screen.
This weird thing has been happening to me where inside of Boinks, my cursor has been vanishing, and it's doing it right now, and it's not a good sign. This is when we started having some crashy problems last week.
Oh, yeah.
But,
yeah.
We'll see. Maybe we can get it worked out.
We've had some changes in studio. I mean, we've added monitors. Right now, we're running a total of 5 monitors, I think. And so,
and we are not solar powered.
Yeah.
And we need Julian. We need him when he's in the States. We need some earthquake proof buildings after our 4.5.
After the past month we've had. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. How are we doing, Matthew?
We're doing okay. We're going to try to make this happen. So we have a sponsor ad from our friends at Wesley Seminary, and if I can get my mouse to click it, we're going to watch that now.
All right.
The MDiv program at Wesley Seminary is unique in the respect that we have spiritual formation going on throughout your entire seminary career. I've been to other seminaries, I've been a seminarian at points, and usually there's the token course in spiritual formation. But here, spiritual formation is done every regular semester. When you're taking a full load, you're also taking spiritual formation because it's such a part of who you are as a minister. It's not an auxiliary part, it's not a nod at God, it's not an add-on. It's part and parcel of who you are, and you minister from the base of who you are as a person of God. And so that's always kept at the forefront here. And so in the spiritual formation program, which is a parallel track that goes on with every course that you take during a regular semester, we constantly look at different aspects of what it means to be a person of God and a person of God in ministry. Because adding that ministry dimension adds a whole different level of understanding about what it means to be connected to God. So spiritual formation in seminary is one of the ways that we keep ministers and Christian leaders connected to God as they are learning, so that the learning is always done mindful of how it affects the people of God, how it affects one's walk with God, how it empowers you to do ministry for God. God is always at the center of it. So when we are teaching and mentoring in spiritual formation, those are the things that we keep at the forefront.
As always, we want to thank Wesley Seminary for their sponsorship of this episode of the Technology Show. And now, time for
Download of the Week.
Most exciting part
Can
of the
I
show.
just say
What
about this
everybody
download
tunes
of the
in for.
week? So Matthew and Tony we're doing a group text, and they're going back and forth about the download of the week, and I'm just going to be honest.
You didn't even know what we're talking about.
No clue. So TG's like, well, I wonder what he thinks.
No,
And my
because
phone
I
had
knew.
died.
It's because I knew. I knew you wouldn't know that you'd be like, what in the world is going on?
Our download of the week, this is going to be something that it's not for the majority of people, but there are still people out there that are on Windows XP, and support ends for that in April. And so if you just use your computer, surf the web,
Little Facebook, little
Facebook,
email, maybe
little
occasionally,
Skype.
yeah, maybe occasionally a Word document.
Yep.
We were at a hospital the other day that there are computers in the lobby that you could go and search on while you're waiting. Windows XP.
Well, that's coming to an end.
To the point where there was a story this week that they're going to start sending pop-up things to users of Windows XP. So if you're using XP, you're going to know, because a little pop-up when it's going to come up and it's going to say, in April, Microsoft is no longer providing updates, which means that there is a team of Russian hackers who are on standby, waiting. What that means is if there's a security hole, there's going to be a security hole for the rest of time if you are running Windows XP, because Microsoft's not going to continue to patch that system, and so you put yourself at risk if you're an XP user right now. So we wanted to do something. We got to thinking we wanted to do something to help folks who do this. So as an example of somebody who, well, our download.
Our download, we are recommending a different operating system called Ubuntu, and it's free. This is a Linux-based, what's called distribution. Ubuntu is the one that's kind of taken the lead because it's user-friendly, and there's a company in South Africa that's really gotten behind it to really push it.
And they've done a good job with it. It is simple. Linux in this Ubuntu can go two directions. You can be really smart and love command lines and have a great time in Ubuntu. You can be a novice user with no knowledge of what I even just said right there, and you're going to be able to work inside of this.
And it's free. All the applications are free. So you might say, well, what if I've got all these documents I have and they're all Microsoft documents? Well, if you load Ubuntu, it comes with something called LibreOffice, which is free. It will open up any Microsoft document. As a matter of fact, you can draft a document in that what's the program? Writer is what they call it. And you can save it as a Microsoft document. So if you know you have to send it to someone else who's using Microsoft Word, you just save it as a doc, and it will send it on to them in a Microsoft format. It has, if you use Chrome, you can load Chrome on there. It has Firefox. You're not going to have Internet Explorer. Congratulations.
Yeah. So you have a mother-in-law
Yes.
who uses
Yep.
Ubuntu.
She does.
She's not, you couldn't sit her down in front of a computer and just like expect that on her own she's able to just figure this out. But she's been able to pick that up
Right.
very easily. You've shown her a couple things.
Yep.
It's not overly complicated, and it's something that like if you're running Windows XP and you say this computer's been serving me fine, well that's good, but the software is not going to much longer. You're going to need to make a change to keep yourself secure, especially if you do web things. So this is an alternative. You use the same hardware, same computer, and this free piece of software that we're linking you to is supported now till 2017, and they make upgrading every time it's free.
Yeah, and in 2017 they'll come out with another
Long-term
Their
support,
next
yeah.
iteration will be another 3-year long-term support.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 links. Number one, just to ubuntu.com, so you can tool around there, see the operating system. Some of you say, well, I don't know that I can download it and then try to, there's something called burn an image. Well, you can order the installation disk directly.
Right.
And so we've put that link in there as well. If you do that, if you pull that up, you will notice that the default currency is the pound. There's a drop-down window. If you just click on that, then you can choose US dollars. That's going to cost you something, but they're just charging you the cost of the disk and for shipping. So I think it's about $8, $12, something like that.
Yeah.
If you know someone that's tech savvy, they can actually go to ubuntu.com. They can download that and burn an image for you, and just show them this part of our broadcast. Again, if they're a tech person, they'll understand what we're talking about.
And if you are a tech person and you've got family that's running Windows XP,
help them, please.
Yeah, and it'll be a hard sell. I mean, it is a hard sell to change what you're comfortable with to something else, but it is possible. They make it very easy in Ubuntu.
I can tell you right now with XP, there are security things they're going to go after. They're going to go after email, because with people's email, they can get vital information there, especially if people use their email to connect with their bank, things of that nature. If you do online banking and you're on XP, after it expires, I wouldn't do that anymore. I would just stop. I would unplug the computer from the internet, because that will eventually become a security hole. Hackers are going to go for that. So again, if you haven't upgraded from Windows XP, you only use your computer for email and things of that nature, you're not a heavy user, then we would recommend Ubuntu as just a different operating system. All right, let's move on to They Said It.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
The big issue over the next 5 to 10 years is going to become, how far do we go in pursuit of the perfect baby? Do I think we're going down that road? Yes. Does it creep me out? Yes. Are we going to be able to draw a clear line? I don't think so. Medical ethicist Art Kaplan expressing his opinion as U.S. health officials are weighing whether to approve trials of a pioneering in vitro fertilization technique using DNA from 3 people in an attempt to prevent illnesses like muscular dystrophy and respiratory problems. Source, CNN.
Poverty isn't just a lack of money, but sometimes a complex web of challenges that keep children from ever reaching the starting line. One home I visited was a trailer jammed with 8 people, and some nights it has double that. None of the adults has a job, and most are former drug addicts or alcoholics whose addictions began when they were children. Nicholas Kristof reporting on efforts to alleviate childhood poverty in Appalachian region of West Virginia. Source, the New York Times.
Structural and cultural flaws produce systemic funding inequities for ethnic minorities that serve to keep parachurch ministries white. Missio Eric, in the second of 3 articles, it takes a look at the practice of raising one's support in parachurch organizations. Source, Minister Different.
Someone unaccustomed to taking opiates could suffer a fatal overdose from just 2 capsules. A single capsule could be fatal if swallowed by a child. FDA Commissioner Margaret Hamburg, speaking on behalf of a coalition of addiction experts and physicians who are urging U.S. health officials to reverse course and block the launch of a powerful painkiller called Zohydro, expected to hit the market this month. Source, Reuters. So let's go to our top story here. Yep. To me, fascinating story.
Right.
There are some diseases that are known as mitochondrial diseases.
Right.
And so what they are proposing to do is to take 3 different DNA patterns and put them in vitro. So you have, let's say, the egg from a woman whose mitochondrial is bad. They take the nucleus out of that. The nucleus is fine, which has chromosomes, things of this day. Take the nucleus out of that. They get a donor egg, remove that nucleus, put the mother's nucleus in there, but the donor egg has good mitochondrial.
Right.
And so there are some diseases that automatically, if they're mitochondrial based, you get rid of them.
Yeah, yeah. My biggest issue with this is, and I don't know, maybe I'm just being Bible Belt guy, but there's something about, to me, in the scriptures, the 2 become one. The 2 will become one flesh. And so for me, this is, I mean, he says it. Are we going to be able to draw a clear line? I don't think so. And that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, we have a second link in this story, and they covered this Saturday on the CBS Morning Show.
Yeah.
And one of the ladies said, here's what our concern is. Does this then open the door for designer babies?
Right.
And her opinion on it is, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
This is where we are with this.
Yeah. See, this is a personal issue for me, because before we had children, my wife is diagnosed with, she tests positive for a gene in her DNA that mutates and causes Huntington's disease. So we decided, before she got tested, hey, if you're positive, we will not have children. Well, once she tests positive, that just crushes you, because now you're thinking, well, we're not going to have kids. But that's a possibility that you can do in vitro, that you can get this embryo.
Extrapolate the bad DNA.
And they can, well, you can't do that. You can test the embryo.
Okay.
And if it's got that repeating gene, that's where you
get rid of the embryo.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was, I remember I was on a mission trip and talking to one of my youth sponsors about that, just having probably a 2-hour conversation, because we were just starting to look at options. Yeah. And then, finally we just felt the Lord was with us and had kids. And
okay, but now see, this is different, Heath. So now you're talking about testing embryos. Okay. Good embryo, bad embryo, good embryo.
But
okay, we'll get rid of the
embryos
bad.
involved.
Now what you're saying, no, there are embryos involved. Yeah. What you're doing now, initially you just have eggs.
Yeah.
So you drill down, okay, what's the good part of the egg, what's the bad part of the egg? In this case, they're saying, all right, we are able to isolate these mitochondrial diseases, based diseases. So this is bad mitochondrial. We're going to take the nucleus out. So it's got the chromosomes of the birth mother, but it's all in a donor egg, which has the mitochondrial of someone else. Mm-hmm. And then when that egg is fertilized, well, then that's when you get the 3rd DNA pattern. And so now as we continue to bore down on these eggs, if you can extrapolate certain parts of DNA that are bad and then replace them, that's basically, this is oversimplification, but that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions on the story that I linked to you on the Saturday show is, so can we bore right down to eye color?
Right.
Redhead, brunette, things of that nature.
Male, female.
Male, female. Yeah, all of that.
Can they test for midichlorians on there? Can tell you how many midichlorians the child.
I was gonna say it. You beat me
I don't
you
even
beat
know
me
what
to it.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Oh, there's people out there. They know.
Midichlorians.
This raises so we picked this story because it raises huge ethical questions.
Yeah. And we don't like answering ethical questions on the show. We just like raising them.
Well, I do think if you talked about the church's perspective on this. The church is in a tight spot here because usually what happens with in vitro is it's not just one egg that is then fertilized. So we're not talking about embryos yet. We're talking about taking the egg and manipulating the DNA. But then if what we do is we have 4 of these eggs that we've manipulated the DNA, we fertilize them, now we have 4 embryos, and what if the parent says, well, that's fine, I want 2, but I don't want the other 2.
Right.
And this is what we have right now.
Right.
I mean, we have thousands of embryos, these fertilized eggs, but the parents don't need them, don't want them. Well, if you believe that life begins at conception,
you have a problem here.
We have a huge problem, a huge ethical problem. All right. The article on poverty, this is one. Go ahead.
Can I put a time? Go back to that for just a second. Adopted for Life. I'm getting ready to have a great interview.
Yeah.
And in that book, some of this gets addressed a little bit. And it's very interesting. So, anyways, on timeout.
Little teaser time.
Yeah. Russell Moore coming up.
Yeah, the second article here deals with poverty, and a wonderful article because it talks about how the title of it's something like, some kids don't even get to the starting line.
Yeah.
And I brought this up last week just in a passing conversation, and just the generational poverty that this gentleman is seeing within the Appalachian region of West Virginia.
Yeah.
And my point last week, and I think this article bears it out, is that there has to be a physical intervention.
Yeah.
He follows the life of a kid who could not hear, but the problem could be repaired through surgery. So the child now hears, but the surgery didn't take place until a lot of development had already happened. And because they were locked in poverty, they knew the child could not hear, but they didn't have the money to take care of it. Yeah. And so I think that the child started hearing at 2 or 3 years old, but the article talks about how far behind this child is, in comparison to their peers. Yeah. And it gets into, as you can see, it gets into other things about drug addiction, alcohol abuse.
We, Sunday morning, we're doing the community Bible experience. And we have several, I would say 40% of our class is teachers. And they, here we are, we're talking about reading God's Word. And when they started talking about kids that can't read, one of our teachers, I think she teaches 6th grade, and she's talking about how many kids she has that can't read. And to me, that goes straight to, exactly what this story is about.
Right. Jason Butler, he brought this up last week.
Yeah.
That they had this girl who could not read. Reason she couldn't read well is because she couldn't see. She needed a $100 pair of eyeglasses.
Yeah. And I think, for me in the church, it was powerful in that room that we were all thinking that we'd all been reading God's Word, and he brings out this same thing, that there's something in our hearts that we're burdened for kids and adults that can't read. And so we said, well, what's the illiteracy rate in our county, and what could we do to bring that down, and how would that kind of snowball some things? I think so. What poverty does, poverty is about so much more than money. Poverty is you are unaware of your options. So like this family, they may know their child can't see or the child can't hear, and they're like, well, we can't afford it. Yeah. And they don't know, because the church hasn't been the flesh. Yeah. We haven't been present to say, hey, there's this and this and this. And
the reality is that this child probably could have been taken care of at a much younger age, but but the parents aren't even aware of the resources that are there. This is why I say what was powerful about Jason Butler's interview last week is that here's a church that is getting involved in the lives of people. They're moving, not sending money into the community. They are moving into the community. And that's one of the things I pulled out of this article, that this is the issue at the end of the day isn't just money.
Right. They knew that girl couldn't see because they had a relationship with her.
Exactly.
And that to me is...
all right, we're running out of time. So on the third story here, just a great... This is one that you came up with, Heath.
Yeah.
It's how many of these parachurch organizations are white, and by the way that they have to do fundraising, they remain white.
Right, because some of the techniques that are taught, whether you're a church planner or a missionary or just, a parachurch organization, that a lot of those techniques and strategies don't work in other ethnic communities. They work great with the white community, but not, the Latin community, the African American community. Great article, and I think in our denomination in particular, I hope that this article gets into the right hands, because I do think this is something that, if we can address it, as we are targeting urban areas of ministries, we've got to fix some of these structural things,
Yeah, I'll read just like 6 lines here. It gives you the kernel of this article, and it's research-based. So this guy hasn't done the research, but what he's done is he's gone out and read some of these research projects. Often their rationale sounds something like, everyone needs to start from the same place to raise their own support. It wouldn't be fair to give someone an advantage. But there's a major flaw in that logic. We don't all start from the same place, and this is especially true with ethnic minorities. And then he says this, ethnic minorities start from a place that presents 2 barriers that often prove insurmountable in their fundraising efforts that white ministers as a group don't face: structural disadvantage and cultural barriers. I thought it was interesting, the Asian slant on this. They said because of their culture, it's an embarrassing thing to go out and ask for money.
Yeah.
So if you come into an organization, a white parachurch organization, and this is the way you're supposed to raise funds, you have automatically squeezed those of Asian descent out because it goes against the grain of their culture. They weren't raised this way.
Right. Yeah.
The last one is just about this medication that Margaret Homburg and others want to see the FDA turn around on. It looks like it's going to be legalized. One of the things that I've seen in my lifetime, and I know Matthew, you deal with it, and Heath, you deal with it, is that we are dealing with addictions within our congregations that we're not talking about pot, we're not talking about cocaine, something they go on the corner and buy. We're talking about they go to their doctor's office and they get a prescription for it.
Right. Or someone else got a prescription for it, and then they go and buy it from them. And now this is what's crazy to me, the cycle of drug addiction and having personally walked side by side with somebody dealing with that is... They're addicted to one drug, and how do they get them off that drug?
They put them on another.
They put them on another drug that is just as addictive. I don't understand. Hey, I don't speak for all the guys. FDA, here's what I want you to do, okay? We got enough painkillers, all right? There's millions of people in the world. They need water. They need clean water. So figure out how to get people clean water. This, whatever this is, Zohydro. The hydro you need to be working on is clean water for people. That's my rant.
They say that if you read the article, they say that this just puts Oxycontin to. I mean, it's
Oxycontin.
All
you're getting your words mixed up.
No,
Oxycontin is oxycodone is cotton candy.
Oxycontin and oxycodone are 2 different medications.
Well, never mind.
Yeah.
Now I got confused.
Yeah. Now I made the comment in our pre-show that this makes both of those look like cotton candy.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is addictive in its own right.
All right. Hey, we had a question given to us this week.
Mail call.
All right, and so our question comes from Priscilla Hammond. I thought this was interesting because I had just had this conversation with someone.
Yeah.
She says, have you guys talked about church bulletins lately? Would love to know some best practices and if someone has cut them out completely.
What we have done starting this year is every series we do 7 or 8 week series. There's a booklet that has all the. It's just sermon notes. So it's got sermon notes for every. So if you miss a Sunday, you've still got the booklet and you got the notes.
But
for that
no
series.
Bulletin in terms of announcements.
So every week we do a half sheet front
Okay.
and back. That is weekly announcements. It's got the volunteer list. It's got our people still like seeing the numbers, the offering and things like that. So every week. So when the series starts, we print out 50 or 60 of the booklets, and then every week we do the half sheet. So we've cut down on paper, and our people, we're not the tech savvy church, so they appreciate that half sheet.
Yeah, I said to Priscilla, I think my experience, anecdotal, is that this breaks down by generation.
Yeah.
So younger than me, they don't need it.
Right.
My age and older, I'm 50. My age and older, they seem to really, need it.
Right.
And I know that she said they're toying with a half sheet. So that's one of the ideas that's been thrown out. I haven't really heard a whole lot. I don't know if you guys have heard from what other churches are doing. I don't know of anyone that's just cut it out completely.
Even mega churches that you go to will hand out. They have them.
What about NewSpring? I visited, but I don't remember.
NewSpring mass produces, and it's a bulletin. It's a cardboard kind of, not card stock kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's got a place for you to do sermon notes. It's got a tear off thing. If you want to make a decision that you can drop in the offering plate.
I thought I found an article recently because right before Priscilla sent this question, we'd had a conversation about the church bulletin. And about what it was, theories on it and stuff like that. Tom Rayner did a poll and talked about 5 things that church members want in a bulletin. The very first thing is quality. They want something that's not embarrassing. They don't want to be the bulletin blooper. Sermon notes and outline was number 2. Number 3 was an order of service. Again, this surprised me too. Now, I don't know if we polled, I don't know what congregation he polled, but these are the top 5 responses he got. The order of service, attendance and stewardship statistics.
I see that.
And then announcements.
But all of those, I would say that, again, generationally, I can see, I understand all of that with older than me, but younger than me, you take my son, my daughter who are in their 20s, they don't care that they have the order of service in front of them. They don't.
Yeah. Most people, even a church that would mark itself contemporary, let's just be honest, you're traditional. You're doing 2 songs. You're taking up your offering, do another song. You're having, most of the time, people that are there every week, they know the drill. Yeah. And
I agree. It's the order of service thing surprises me. It really does.
Yeah.
Money doesn't surprise me. People want to know what the church is taking in, and that's always been I think any generation kind of wants to know.
Now I think there was, when I first got to Oakway, they were putting the numbers in, and it was like amount given a year ago. And so, what was given last week was way low, and I was like, "That's kind of."
You have to have a full-time researcher sometimes to make a bulletin. Go through the archives. Of the
but
church.
I do think, and what's frustrating as a pastor,
1897.
What's frustrating as a pastor, you give people a bulletin with all the announcements. You put all the announcements on your website.
Oh, yeah.
You make a verbal announcement with all the announcements, and people still say, "Hey, when is that?" I'm like,
"Oh, listen."
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna.
We all face
I'll
this.
put it out there.
Yeah,
I used to say to my wife, there are some people that the only way that they would notice I'm making announcements if I came out stark naked. Then maybe. It used to frustrate me to death because, again, bulletin, you announce it, and then they come up to you. Well, I didn't know we were. Well, where have you been? Yeah. Where have you been, man?
Oh, man. Yeah.
And somehow it's my fault that you don't know.
Yeah.
It's wild. You really, I think there was another study done about how many times people have to hear something before it actually sits in, and I think it's about 4. I think you got to get out about a month ahead of stuff if you really want people to know and understand. And it's the same. We face the same thing. We can put stuff up on a screen all day ahead of time. But if I don't have somebody stand up in the service.
Yeah.
And give those announcements verbally.
Man. Oh,
and if
man,
I don't have it in a thing, like I could, if I don't do everything, and then I got it was amazing. And this was from a young person. This is from a young person. We had snow recently, had to cancel a service, and I sent out emails. We did the church Facebook page. We have an automated phone thing where I can record a message. This is wonderful, by the way. If you need people who need a phone call to be able to record a message and send it out to the entire group of people that need that message, that's amazing. Did all of that stuff, and I got to think, why wasn't it on the news? Like, why weren't we in the scrolling ticker? And this is from somebody that I was surprised from. Tony, it was from a family member of yours, a daughter in particular. And I was like, oh my word! I went to look to see like what the news wants, and they like for organizations they typically want you need about 100 people. Well, we don't quite meet that mark. We're getting close to that, but we don't quite meet that mark.
You can't just call Channel 7 and they just put you. You got to like fill out a form.
Yeah, you got to go through all that
signatures.
stuff. And it's like, my word, I would literally spend hours of work trying to get it out. So I pleaded with her. I said, let me put you on the senior citizen phone distribution list where if there's a major thing, you're now.
Here's what's funny. You did such a great job of advertising and announcing the Community Bible Experience, and we started last Monday. And I bet you 2 days before that, people were, when do we start?
It
had been announced 8 weeks. 8 weeks, man.
Yes.
When do we
beginning of
start?
January, we started that thing.
Where are the questions? Where are the questions? And like each one of the Bibles has that.
the questions.
Yeah. Plus Matthew sets up this website where they can get every resource in the world. Where are the questions? It's like
what kind of Bible is this? This Bible don't have any numbers. Hey, speaking of making announcements, Tony, tell people what's coming up in the next couple of shows.
I don't know, man. What is coming up now? Kara Powell is going to be with us next week. She is the author of Sticky Faith. And who was it originally? Was it DePrez that put us onto this book? Matthew DePrez. And one time my brother was in the chat room, and he raised a question about, why don't we ever look at young people that stay in the church? And this is what Kara Powell does. And this book is about best practices, how we can keep our young people in the church. What are those things?
This is a major deal too. This book,
it is
Orange Curriculum.
Yeah.
They love this book.
Yeah.
And this interview is going to be a good one for us.
And then Heath, Jim, and was it Geraldine?
Yep,
Bogear?
Jim and Geraldine Bogear. They've written the books Faith Legacy and Faith Legacy for Couples. We're going to be interviewing them about that. They travel the country, pastors in San Diego, and we love books. We love books so much.
Hey,
Don't forget about our giveaway. Oh, real quick.
I was going to say real quick, talk about our affiliate link and with Amazon, and then the purchase of the week.
So we're giving away a copy of this.
Back and forth everywhere.
So here we go.
The
giveaway link is right there, thetechologyshow.com/giveaway.
That's a short link. It works too. You can put that in your browser.
But if you're listening to this with no video, this is we're giving away Dangerous Presents. Excuse me, by Jason Butler. And if you don't win, you can buy it from Amazon.com. And the way you buy it off Amazon is you go to right there, Techology/shop, or you go to our website, thetechologyshow.com. There's an Amazon banner. Click on that. Or better yet, not on your Windows XP machine, but on a different machine. You're using Google Chrome. Or you can go to Techology/Chrome, download the Google Chrome extension. That way, every time you go to Amazon, you automatically buy through our link. Takes you 5 seconds, helps out the show, keeps the show free, keeps the show running.
There was one purchase this past week.
One
purchase. And the purchase of the week was the 50 greatest pieces of classical music by the London Philharmonic Orchestra, some London orchestra. And
Very
it was
sophisticated listenership.
I think it's $3.99 right now. If you want the top 50 greatest pieces of classical music, we'll have the link in the show notes. And thank you, whoever bought that.
And I just misspoke. One of our promo things, the Bogears are not in San Diego, they're in Sacramento, but if you're in South Carolina, California is California.
It's all the same.
That's
to you.
all
Yeah,
the
way to
same.
promote the Southern stereotype there, Heath. That's,
Yeah, that's right.
That's wonderful. Listen, we want to talk to you real quick about sponsorship here on the show. You saw that this episode was sponsored by Wesley Seminary. We think we have a product that you can piggyback off of, and that literally your sponsorship lives on as long as our episode is out there on YouTube. We have been talking the last couple of weeks. We have just in the last 2 weeks gotten comments on our interview with Rosaria Butterfield.
Just this week, Joe Dongel, when we had him on, that video was
really
viewed and shared. It was a great episode.
Wow, and Joe Dongel was like 1.5 years ago, approaching 2 years. Yeah, so if you had sponsored that, if your organization had sponsored it, if your business had sponsored it, then your watermark would have been all over that. They would have seen your sponsorship. And so we hope that as you're trying to promote your product, you might consider sponsoring an episode of the Techology Show. And,
really should.
And Matthew just had the link up there on the screen. So follow it and get in contact with us. We'd love to talk to you. All right. If you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the stories we covered at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, as Priscilla did, you can send your emails to thetechnologyshow at gmail.com. You can go ahead and go to our Facebook, leave us a message there. I think that is what Priscilla did. You can also call us at 3049 Theology. You can leave a message there and just call the number.
Then your voice can be heard.
And we may even play your comments on the air. As always, on behalf of Heath and Matthew and the Technology Show, we thank you for joining us. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.